Hello everyone, John here from Gaming in the Wild, and I've got a new video for you that's going to look back at all of the video game news that happened in September 2025. September is of course the month of the Tokyo Games Show, a big international games showcase happening out in Japan, and that means that over the last month we've had directs from Nintendo, from Xbox, from Sony, and from Annapurna Interactive, who presented a few new indie games as well. If you blinked you might have missed it, but there was an awful lot of games news packed into all of these showcases, so I thought I'd make you a video running down some of the announcements that caught my eye. If you enjoyed this video, then please do give it a like. You can subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in your feed, and there really were hundreds of games to look at in all of these showcases, so let me know in the comments if you think that I've missed something, and I'll tell you all about this channel's wonderful Patreon community and all the extras that you can get for just $1 a month at the end of the video. And with that, let's go. I'm going to start off with a quick run through the Nintendo Direct that happened on September the 12th. It was the 40th anniversary of Mario existing at all, so I think a lot of Mario fans were tuning in to see what they would get. It was a pretty funny presentation. We got Shigeru Miyamoto himself showing us the Kyoto Marathon bibs, sponsored by Nintendo. Perhaps not exactly the big Mario announcement that everyone was hoping for right out of the gate for this 40th anniversary, but pretty funny nonetheless. There was also the announcement of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which is going to be released in April of 2026. This is of course a sequel to the 2023 smash hit that has made over 1.3 billion at the box office. And it seems like between the shops, the theme parks and the movies, Nintendo is really starting to make the most out of the love that is out there for them. I think people have mixed feelings about this, but I really like it, man. I've loved Nintendo since I was young, so I'm really happy to see them branching out in this way. As for games, there was no new mainline Mario game announced, which I think a lot of people were hoping for, but it turns out that Donkey Kong Bonanza has been made by the people that would have been making an Odyssey 2. So instead, we got a couple of remasters of Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, although if you own the Mario 3D All-Stars bundle that came out a couple of years ago, then you already own Galaxy. If you didn't, you can buy it standalone at $40 or as part of the Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle for a slightly eye-watering $70. Nintendo really aren't shy about pricing on their old games, huh? There was also a new Mario Tennis game announced called Mario Tennis Fever that has a story mode that looks pretty interesting. I think like with Splatoon, it's good to have an adventure mode or a campaign to draw people in and get them into the other part. There was also a new 2D Yoshi game coming called Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. That looks inoffensive, let's say. There was also a new Hyrule Warriors game announced, which I think Zelda fans are kind of into. You do get morsels of Zelda lore mixed in with the Musuo combat. There was also some pretty big news in the announcement of a new full-fat mainline Fire Emblem game, the first since Three Houses, called Fortune's Weave. I'm kind of intrigued by this one actually. I do like games that are based around a tournament scenario, much like Metaphor Fantasio was last year, and this one is set around a giant Colosseum-style combat tournament, so expect high drama, set pieces, face-offs, and politics and intrigue as well. There was a Bonanza roguelike DLC Shadow Drop, although I think it's worth saying that even though this is based on DK Island and looks very initially intriguing, most of the Bonanza fans that I've heard from didn't really gel with it. They said it's a bit of a cheap endgame mode that maybe should have been rolled in with the game rather than being DLC, so you know, you can make your own mind up on whether that one is worth it. And we also got the long-awaited release date for Metroid Prime 4, which is coming out on the 4th of December. We also saw the reveal of Samus driving between levels through a somewhat barren open world section on a giant Metroid motorbike. I think we've all been waiting for the gimmick or the new twist that would make Metroid Prime 4 something to look forward to, and this motorbike might just be it. There was also news on some ports. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Dynasty Warriors Origins are both coming to the Switch 2 in January. Monster Hunter Stories 3 lands in March, and the current gen title Resident Evil Requiem will come to Switch 2 on day and date, although I think in a noticeably compromised visual form. And I think that this Direct actually gave us a look at the personality that the Switch 2 is starting to form. It will once again be the only place, of course, to play Nintendo games, and it will of course also be a place to play indie games like Silksong or Hades 2 in a really nice package with a nice UI. And then it does seem that we are going to get AAA blockbusters coming to the Switch 2 as well. I think that's why the original Nintendo Switch was eventually being left behind, and I do think that for a lot of Switch 2 players, Switch is their primary console. So it's good that Switch players do get the chance to play things like Cyberpunk 2077 and Star Wars Outlaws, which may be missing some, ray tracing, lighting effects, but are perfectly playable on the Switch 2. Although gamers that also happen to have a PC, an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 might choose to play those big games elsewhere, just for that extra visual flair, you know? But that was the Nintendo Direct. It was quite a good one, I thought. And next I'll talk about the Xbox Showcase. This one had a lot of stuff in there that we knew about already, but there was some really good stuff mixed in and a couple of good reveals as well. The biggest of which was probably Forza Horizon 6, this time set in Japan. And I thought Forza Horizon 5 was really amazing. I loved the Mexican setting. I loved racing around the open world, getting into dirt track races, stunt tracks, story missions, all kinds of off-roading and racking up car after car after car in my garage. I found it to be just really surprisingly addictive, very well crafted, and the vast range of cars and courses and settings was just brilliant. This has become one of my most anticipated games of 2026 immediately. I cannot wait to see what they do with this Japan setting. That was Forza Horizon 6. I also really like the look of Aphelion. It's a game that we saw in the summer, but it was good to see it again. It's an impressive looking astronaut adventure from Don't Nod, who have been on a really long running streak lately. I'm a sucker for sci-fi exploration games, and I'm a big fan of Don't Nod's story-focused output, where you get to choose the course of the story throughout your playthrough. So this one is one for me for sure. No release date, just a 2026 release window. That's Aphelion. We also got yet another look at The Outer Worlds 2, which is coming out in October. It's the Fallout in Space sequel to The Outer Wilds, which was, I would say, medium well received. It has a Metacritic 82, and it got a kind of tepid, lightly enthusiastic reception from players. I'm yet to hear from anyone who's really passionate about this game, but if that is you, then please let me know in the comments why I should be more excited about The Outer Worlds 2. Either way, it's coming out on October 29th, so we'll find out soon. Another sequel is High on Life 2, which is coming out on the 13th of February 2026, and the making of this game seems like a choice, given that the creative driver of the first game, Justin Roiland, was let go from Squanch Games after a wave of Me Too allegations that continues to hound him to this day. You might think that the studio would want to move on from that rather than continuing his legacy, but nope, they're making a sequel. So good luck with that, I guess. That's a High on Life 2. We got another look at Super Meat Boy 3D, a precision platforming game in 2.5D that seems like a bit of a tough sell to me. I think precision platforming is hard enough in 2D, so adding an extra dimension really complicates the already complicated gameplay. But as we discovered recently with Silksong, gamers do seem to really enjoy being punished, or at least certain gamers do, so maybe Super Meat Boy 3D will be one for those players. We got another look at Planet of Lana 2. The first game had a lot of fans. For me, it was a little unresponsive and over-animated, and I found it a bit frustrating, but it's a very fresh-looking 2D platformer with a really nice art style. Something that I think was a bit more for me was At Fate's End from Thunder Lotus, the makers of Spiritfarer. At Fate's End looks like a very Neva adjacent if you played that one. It has that Nomada visual style to it, and it looks like there's some really interesting gameplay going on with action, story, tarot card choices, and mid-combat dialogue choices that I really like the look of too. I think there's going to be more to that game than meets the eye. That's At Fate's End. And we also got a look at Resonance, a Plague Tale Legacy, which looks to stay in the Plague Tale world, but to move on from the story of Hugo and Amicia. So Plague Tale fans still have another story to look forward to after the main one rounded itself off. And I think the game that most caught my attention and that I was most excited about is the one that we'll get to play first. That's Keeper, the little tower game that you control a little spider-like tower running around a strange psychedelic world from Double Fine Productions. Really nice to see another game coming from Double Fine, and this one has just the best visuals. I just can't wait to move around in this world and find out what the game is all about. That is Keeper. Not to be left out, Sony also held a state of play. We got another look at 007 First Light, which promises some kind of mixture of Hitman-esque espionage gameplay and full-on action. The infamously difficult action RPG series Neo is getting its third edition, which will come out on PlayStation on February the 6th, 2026. There was a nice-looking indie game called Chronoscript: The Endless End. It's a bit of a mouthful. It's a 2D exploration game where an editor becomes trapped inside a manuscript and has to edit their way out of it, like a dark fantasy plucky squire. This one looked pretty interesting, I thought. I really liked the papery art, and the idea has some interesting gameplay implications about turning and reorganizing pages to find your way out of a maze. We also got a look at Saros, the latest from Housemarque, the makers of Returnal, and it isn't billed as a Returnal sequel despite being set in the same universe, but it looks like a Returnal sequel in all but name. It's another fast-paced third-person sci-fi shooter with bullet hell gameplay, a focus on evasion, large-scale boss fights, and a sense of being somewhere very alien, far from home, and full of Lovecraft-adjacent dread. It seems to be run-based, much like Returnal, with permanent upgrades that you can unlock to improve over time, and it had some cool new features like a shield that you can raise to absorb enemy projectiles. Absorb enough of them and then you can unleash a special. I played Returnal and I found it intriguing but a bit too hard for me personally. It had no mid-run saves, it had no difficulty options, which is a bit of a bummer because I really enjoyed the scenario and the storytelling and the strange dark psychedelia of it all. Interesting to see Saros, that's a PS5 exclusive coming out on the 20th of March 2026. The final item on the list was a gameplay look at Wolverine from Insomniac, that is the Spider-Man team, and this looks extremely gory. The blood was flying, the limbs were flying. It's probably one of the most crazily blood-splattered violent games that I've seen in recent times. It also had Wolverine back in his yellow spandex rather than that low-key Hugh Jackman version of Wolverine that I think exists in most of our minds in the zeitgeist. So not exactly the game that I was expecting. I thought this might be a bit more based on the modern Wolverine. Looks like it's based more on the superhero comic book Wolverine, which I think is, something to look forward to for fans of old school Wolverine. It's penciled for Q3 or Q4 of 2026, so we'll get to see it next year. That's Wolverine. Annapurna also had a direct out at the Tokyo Games Show. They unveiled 3 new games, kind of a low-key presentation, stylishly put together, but only 3 games to look at. One of them is D-Topia. It's a puzzle game set in a seemingly perfect society managed by AI. A bit close to the bone, but I think we can all imagine what could possibly go wrong in a society run by AI based on how things are going currently. We also got a look at People of Note, a video game musical following on the heels of Stray Gods that came out a couple of years ago. It looks like this one will have JRPG combat and some platforming and exploration to look forward to as well, but I will say that the music seemed kind of painfully vanilla and Disney-esque to me, which was a bit of a deal breaker. But if you like that style of music, then check out People of Note, coming from Annapurna in the future. And then finally, we got a look at Demi and the Fractured Dream. This is a Zelda and Journey-inspired 3D adventure game. Much more my speed, this one. It looks a little bit like The Nightling, which came out recently, right down to the color scheme and the main character design even. But The Nightling felt a little bit rough to me and didn't quite hit the spot, so maybe Demi and the Fractured Dream can, and bring some of that 3D retro Zelda vibe. And this is one of the first things we've seen from Annapurna since literally all of the staff at that Annapurna publisher resigned. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Are they going to manage to keep that aesthetic that made Annapurna one of the most interesting indie publishers out there? Or are other indie publishers that have been killing it lately, like Raw Fury and Kepler Interactive, going to pick up that mantle? But anyway, that's all of the news from the Tokyo Games Fest that caught my eye. If I skipped over your favourite game, then please do drop it in the comments and I'll take another look. It was, 3 hours worth of footage that I was scrubbing through here, so I might have let a couple of interesting ones fall between the cracks. Let me know if that's the case. And if you're still watching here at the 12-minute mark, you might just be the kind of person that would really enjoy the kind of things that I offer all of my patrons over at patreon.com/gaminginthewild. If you're a fan of this channel, then you will absolutely love the Gaming in the Wild patron Discord, which has over 150 people in there recommending indie games, dropping trailers, just having a good time, talking about what they're playing and that kind of thing. Social media is a bit of a flaming car wreck at the moment, so if you would like a little quiet community of gamers who are like-minded, kind, and just good people, then you're welcome to come and join us. Patrons also get access to a suite of 20 bonus podcasts that include things like travelogues, recounting my trips to Japan and Dublin and different cities around the world, some book reviews, and just extras, more Gaming in the Wild, but off topic sometimes. If that sounds good to you, it's patreon.com/gaminginthewild, link on the screen now, link in the description. Please do take a look at it. If everyone who watched these videos was in the $1 a month category, it would mean that I could make so many more videos for you and treat it as a full-time job. Thanks as always to my boss tier patrons, Shy Guy, Boss Champ, Keris and Nate, and thank you very much to you if that's something you would consider. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.